Hello and welcome back. This is Vinchenz, and today we are going to be doing some salvaging in the Reclaimer. So on board we have Melky, who is going to be taking the pilot seat, and I will be taking the co-pilot seat. So while we're waiting for the other crew members, we repair the ship, refuel, and get ready to head out. One of the guys decides to take the personal lift that heads straight up into the bridge. It looks like he has a bit of a painful experience on the lift, but eventually he gets on board. As the hangar doors open, we can see it's a beautiful day above Orison. A quick stop at Seraphim Station to grab our last crew member, who also has quite a painful experience getting on board, but eventually manages to get inside the ship and closes up so we can get underway. We arrive at the first salvage claim, which is the M2 Hercules, and as we couldn't scan the ship, we send out the salvage team to see if there's any good loot on board. As the guys head out of the ship, you can see the immense scale of the Reclaimer, and our guys look like little ants floating around the ship. They have a quick route around, and we eventually manage to find 2 SCU container of Quantanium and a 24 SCU container of gold. So the guys take these with them, and they head back to the Reclaimer. We weren't sure if you could fit a 24 SCU container onto the lift, as we'd heard you could only fit 16 SCU into the Reclaimer. However, we did manage to fit this on sideways and load it up into the cargo bay. As we start scraping the M2, we realised that the SCU count wasn't going up on the Reclaimer, so we decided to stop scraping and just crack this ship straight away. So we fill up the filler station with 240 SCU from cracking the M2. And while the guys are unloading the containers in the salvage room, we crack the last few bits of the M2 and retract the claw. The guys load up 8 SCU containers onto the lift in the salvage room and take these down to the cargo room. Meanwhile, in the salvage room, the guys extract a few small 1 SCU boxes to fill up the little gaps at the back of the room, and the big 16 SCU containers go just in front. Meanwhile, in the bridge, we head through the mist and arrive at our next salvage target, an A2. This time the scraping seems to be working well, so we send 1 crew member to check what's inside the hold of the A2, while we scrape the top of the ship. Inside this one we find a few smaller containers of gold and a 1 SCU container of Quantanium. We use the ship's tractor beam to help line up the containers for crew to load them onto the elevator. I jump in one of the salvage seats to help scrape the top of the A2 while our crew member heads back to his station. In the cargo room, the guys load up the containers, keeping everything as neat as possible and loading up from the back of the room. Now it's time for another trip up back to the salvage room, and they'll load up the elevator again and head back down. We eventually managed to finish scraping the top of the A2, and it's time to head round to start scraping the underside of the ship. The scraping material comes out in smaller 2 SCU containers, and these are now loaded up onto the elevator to take down to the cargo room. Scraping of the underside of the A2 is well underway, and we'll be getting ready to crack the ship pretty soon. The top of the ship's been fully scraped, and once we finish the underside, we'll crack the ship and fill up the depot. So the containers are auto-ejecting from the salvage room, and it's just a constant stream of containers coming out the filler station. Back down on the elevator, we've got one crew member loading up the cargo room and packing it up as full as we can get it. It's now time to crack the A2, so we pull out the claw and get in position. Once the ship is cracked, we line up, and we've got a target of 240 SCU, of which we are going to be collecting 234.8 SCU with a plus 16% bonus. We send an extra crew member down to the salvage room now to start filling up the top deck and the walkways with smaller 2 SCU containers. Meanwhile, in the bridge, we're collecting the last few fragments of the A2. And once these are collected, we will head to the next salvage. So the ship is now full, and we head through the asteroid fields, heading towards our next salvage mission. Salvage room is getting pretty full now, and bigger containers are having to be stored at the front of the room. So we might get one more salvage mission in before we have to head back to base. Arriving at the next ship to salvage, we decide we're just going to crack this ship straight away, and we're going to fill up the filler station so the guys can unload it all as we head back to Orison. Salvage room is looking pretty full, and we've still got big 16 SCU containers coming out that we need to fit in the room somewhere. The cargo room is full to the brim, and there's just a couple of small containers that we can fit in now. So on the bridge we suck up the last few pieces of the salvage ship, and we prepare to head back to Orison. Here's the final piece. So we suck that up. We retract the claw, and it's time to leave. Back in the salvage bay, the containers have stopped coming out, and the guys have managed to fit them in the room where they can. And we've now got a full load. But as we come in on Orison, it's a nice clear evening. With the ship being so full of loot, we take it easy and land it carefully. So some of the crew try and take the single person lift to get out of the ship. Unfortunately, we just couldn't get it to work. So we all load onto the bridge elevator, and we head to the back elevator to exit the ship. So we leave the ship, and just before we head to sell in Orison, we take a quick crew photo. Everybody's pretty happy, we've had a successful run. And now it's time to store the ship and head over to Providence Station. Sometimes when the ships are full, you never know if it's stored properly, so I just double check, make sure it's stored. And then I head towards the shuttle. One of the guys comes with me just to show me where to go, because I've never sold any salvaging material before.
Please clear the hatch. Shuttle will be departing. This is your stop. Please prepare to disembark.
After a short flight, we arrive at Providence
Last call for
Station.
passengers. The shuttle is preparing to depart. At Orson Skyway Shuttle Service, we aim to make getting there half the fun. Please enjoy your flight.
I've never noticed this little bit on the wall before, but this tells you quite clearly where to go for everything you need. We head up another set of stairs. And just in the room on the right, we find the commodity terminals.
This is a temporary work stop on line 04RA.
Hey.
Repeat.
What do you think those terminals are for?
So our first set of construction materials said it's 315 SCU for 1.889 million.
Just use the
Because we hadn't locked everything into the cargo grid, the values of what we're actually selling do seem to get a bit confused. And it then shows 21 units for 2 million. But when we actually come to sell it, it clearly says it's 336 SCU.
What do you think those terminals are for?
But we started on 57 million, and by the time we finished selling these first few bits out of the ship,
Do you think those
we end
terminals
up on just under 62 million. So we head to the TDD, where we can sell the other loot we picked up from the cargo holds of our salvage ships. So now we've got gold and quantanium and some recycled material composite to sell.
Your best bet would be to use the terminal.
So again here, not sure whether it was picking up the cargo grid correctly in the reclaimer, but some of the totals compared to what we were actually selling were a bit crazy. So even though the totals and the units like there, it says 1 SCU was 172,000, but when you click through it says there's 24 SCU. So the game did get a little bit confused about all this. So we went from 57 million to just under 63 million at the end of the run. So all that was left to do was share this out with the boys, and we ended up with about 800,000 each. So I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. Until then, take it easy.